Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. This is where we decode how founders and execs are scaling using smarter systems, automation, AI. If you're looking to future-proof your business, you're in the right place. And today's guest is Alex Grace, who's the VP of Growth and Revenue for Arta. Alex, hey, great to have you today.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So, Alex, we always start with, kind of the founder's journey or the exec leader's journey. So just tell us about your background leading up to working at Arta.
Yeah. I think that my background is most people of a certain age, started my sales career in phone and a list kind of company didn't have SDRs, would call and get people to fax in contracts, and not because I'm not, I'm not that old. I wasn't quite Glenn Ross, but again, it started very old school sales, and so what you learn in that is that technology, I'm sure we're going to talk about, has to be additive. It's not table stakes. It doesn't have to be table stakes. And my career kind of grew from there. I very quickly realized that I enjoyed leadership and kind of the strategy and developing teams and developing people more than kind of just cold hard sales. Not that I don't miss it and enjoy the sales aspect, and
Right.
I quickly kind of grew into leadership. Did a bit of a kind of international tour, opened offices for some companies in Mexico City, Montreal, Calgary, then made the switch over to kind of startup sales and leading teams in various startups. Was at Cvent for a while, a company called Fuda, and then ZocDoc. Then I kind of went earlier stage to a few startups in the health tech space, Elaborate, spent some time at Union, and then, now it's, I've kind of been in a bunch of different spaces, bunch of different industries,
Stages.
different stages. But the thing that I can kind of tell you, where my career started, shouldn't surprise you, is that the problems are the same. They present in different ways, but the solutions are generally, the same 5 solutions to the same 5 problems. It's just kind of finding the different problems that's the fun part. But sales is sales.
Yeah.
Whether you're selling to doctors, whether you're selling to C-suite, whether you're selling to restaurant owners, whether you're selling to patients, consumers, doesn't matter. Gallery owners, auctioneers, the problems are generally the same.
So just for everybody out there, because I know a lot of our audience struggles with stuff that's inherently like that, you and I could talk about for hours, right? Give some folks examples of a few of those 5 problems.
Yeah, they're generally don't math problems.
Yeah.
Which is,
Agreed.
you either have too large of a TAM, too small of a TAM, not a well-decided, want a well that there's like the TAM problems, which is where are you pursuing the deals? There's the sales process problems. My sales process is too long, it's too short, it's not detailed enough, it's too detailed. It's taking too long, it's not converting well. Sales process problems.
Absolutely.
Which we've all seen. And then conversion problems, which are, okay, we're getting stuff in the pipeline, but it's not converting at each stage, and why.
Yep.
Then there's, we're getting them on board, forcing them through the funnel, but then they're churning later, churn problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's favorite problem, we're spending entirely too much money at every stage of this process to get people through. It's not working. I remember when I started I feel like I shouldn't say the name of the company, but a very large health tech company in New York that everybody's heard of, that makes it easy for you to find an appointment with a doctor. Anyways, when I started, I remember we never done full funnel math, and ended up going through the funnel, looking at our conversion rates, looking at how much we were spending to acquire a customer. And our average break even for a new customer was close to 36 months, which is a problem in and of itself.
It's hard to scale.
Our average customer life cycle was 16 months, which is an even bigger problem, because we were basically giving 20 months revenue. Yeah. And again, like, sitting in meetings with people being like, that's not that big of a problem. You got to spend money to make money. And I'm like, no, it's a big problem. And so again, like, those are the general problems that you see, and it's the solutions vary, but they're all a version of the same thing.
Right.
But again, I mean, it's I've seen and can tell funny stories of every instance of them, but they are, it's what we as leaders enjoy doing is finding those problems and then getting rid of them and seeing kind of things accelerate from there.
Yeah, totally agreed. I targeting sales, conversion, churn, right? To me, I wasn't thinking about the fifth one, right? Which was again spending too much and not knowing your metrics, right? So which is
That's the one.
spot on.
That's the
Yeah.
one that ends with you not having a house.
Yeah.
That's that's the gambling addict problem, as I like to call it. And then there obviously are people problems, but that's pretty common. And I think, whether it's you're empowering them too much, not enough, you've hired the wrong people for the role. We've all seen it. Go and hire the top salesperson from your competitor to come join XYZ,
Yeah. And they just
new
think they're going to
startup.
bring this magical book of business, right? And just
Right. And it's like, what you don't realize is that person hasn't actually sold in years. They've built a
right.
book of business, and they've got a referral channel that's going through. They haven't
Yeah.
actually hunted. And so you need somebody who's a hunter.
Right. You hitting on that. It's so funny you say that because I've talked to so many like leaders that don't get that, right? There's people that come with the book of business, but you're right. They haven't had to sell in years because of it versus the hunter, right?
They're just
So
farming that
simple.
they're farming that book of business for leads. And granted, it works really well in the business that they're in, but
Yeah.
they haven't hunted. They're not used to selling something that's not proven. So like there's the hiring the LinkedIn sales guy, like
Right.
no dissing LinkedIn salespeople, but like again, it's just they have systems, they have tools in place, they've got playbooks, they've got one sheeters, they've got all of the things that when you come to an early stage startup don't exist. Like 90% of the questions I get asked by my teams here are like, do we have this one sheeter? Do we have? And my answer is yes. Like make it. Yes.
Yeah.
Like we do once you make it. Like
Yeah.
we don't.
Exactly.
I don't have to feel
And then
that.
you don't have to do it again, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll hire somebody eventually that'll do marketing and make it pretty. But like, we don't have deal desk. I don't have, playbooks and battle cards. And
Right.
I mean, we have hacky versions of them, but
Yeah.
you have to understand the nice thing about having been at every stage is that I know where those stages are and what they
And what
have
to expect
versus
at each, right?
exactly. And so I know what I'm getting when I hire a salesperson away from that company. I know what they're good at and what they're not.
So let me ask you a question before I jump into the one I wanted to really ask you. I got a couple I really want to ask you, but knowing that you've been in these different stages, do you prefer or do you get excited about early stage versus, Series A, Series B versus, later, like more established? Do you get more excited at any of those different phases? Because they all have different challenges. Yeah.
Listen, I think there's a reason I'm not at Google, minding after the like 0.001% growth that, that doesn't excite me.
Right.
I'm never going to be a big company guy. And, once you get to like 500 to 1,000 employees, like I'm out. That's not fun. Unless I was there from the start, then I can probably find ways to make it fun. But for me, I'm like, I like the efficiency stuff. I like you found product market fit. You did so in a really kind of hacky way, but nothing that scales. And now it's about how can we replicate this either past the founder or past the team. I generally like, teams that have transitioned from founder-led sales to actually making a rep productive.
I totally agree with that. Right.
Because those are two different problems. Like
Yes.
going from founder-led sales to actually being able to make someone that doesn't have a title and doesn't know the whole backstory of the business is challenging. Like I've seen,
But that's where the company really gets a foothold, right? When that happens.
It's funny. The number of meetings I've taken, with companies that I, try to recruit me or that I've, consulted with or helping or, just giving free advice to, where the founder will send me like a 60-page sales deck. And I'm like, this is the founder deck. And I'll say to them, let me guess, you've never made a rep productive outside of yourself. And they're like, how did you know? And I'm like, because what you do in your sales process is you tell them every aspect of your product, every feature, every little bell and whistle, and you're feature bombing them.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. It's your baby. You think it's beautiful. But 99% of those features are of zero use to them. And what ends up happening is that the 1% get buried in that because nobody's going to retain all of that information, get buried in there. What you should do is find out what their problems are and then tell them about the 5 or 6 things that your product does that solve their problems. And you're prescribing for the pain versus feature bombing. And then you could tell them about all the wonderful things that it does in a kind of run through later on. But again, doesn't matter. And so your sales deck should be short.
Yeah. 100%. Couldn't agree with you more. I love it. So let me ask you. So I feel like with automation and AI, it's bridging the gap. At least it's closing the gap on some of the issues that have always been around in B2B sales and marketing. But what do you think, as you look across how things have changed in the industry, right, in general, what do you think about growth in 2025 and beyond? And like, what's changed like permanently?
Yeah, I mean, the days of hiring 40 salespeople and trying to pour gasoline on a fire are over. I think that what's changed is that companies care about profitability, which is like wild for, I'm assuming, people of our age, where like we were taught about building a business that's profitable, and then you see companies like Uber that are like, we're never going to be profitable on their IPO forms, and you're like, what? So I think profitability is important, which means the metrics of what you're spending to acquire customers and how you're growing efficiently, are important. That's not to say like if I see a path to get 1 million customers tomorrow, I'm interested, but I'm not gonna sell the bank to do it. And so I think that what's changed is companies are okay with profitable growth. Companies and sales leaders for that matter need to be P&L fluent. Sam Jacobs talks about it all the time, like having a first team mentality and having being fluent in what, a financial statement looks like. And what the metrics are. No longer can you just kind of ignore it and say, oh, it'll figure itself out. Like, you need to know, what is the cost of acquiring this customer? Are our margins on our product? Where are opportunities and levers that I can pull to find cheap and efficient growth? Which is one of the things, to your question about AI, like, I think there are some things that I have an inbox full of people telling me all the new ways that AI is changing sales. But I think that one of the nice things about being a little bit old school in my sales approach is that like email I'll give you an example. I was talking to my reps when I started and they were just emailing and LinkedIn messaging and, all of these Instagram, etc., sending out mail. And I asked, I was like, have you ever thought about just picking up the phone and calling? If you think about it, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people that are calling. Email at this point has become, to stand out in my inbox is hard. Get 100 and something emails a day. And even the best ones, the funny, like, are you dead? Or, would you like a coffee? Or can I buy you this? Like, they generally stand out. But again, if I'm not interested, I'm not clicking. If it's not a problem I'm currently having that I'm aware of and I'm looking for a solution, I'm not clicking. So what email is it's kind of this carpet bombing of inboxes that has a very low click-through rate. Even the best, your best email messages, your most personalized will help you a couple percent, but it's not going to drastically change that channel, especially if you don't have brand recognition. But phone calls, like people, you can't ignore them. You'll answer or you won't. I still check my voicemail. My voicemail is thankfully, other than the like, your car's extended warranty is pretty empty.
Yep.
I say this, everybody watching this podcast, please don't call me.
Yeah.
But please. But again, I think the point is that we're going back to a more quality over quantity.
Yep.
Which is where, phone calls and, bag drops and, going in person and, meeting at dinners, events, conferences becomes more important. And so I think that, where AI can help, where it won't help, it's never going to replace it. It's never going to replace me as a salesperson. It can't sell. There's too many intricacies. It becomes the founder.
Shouldn't sell.
It
Yeah.
shouldn't. It becomes the founder deck. It's very good at feature bone,
Right.
but it's not good at prescribing, objection handling, etc.
Yeah.
Where it is great is it's really good at having a data analyst or a Salesforce engineer on the team that can parse through data and give me insights, that can identify trends really quickly, that can see patterns that I could recognize but generally
It would
don't
take you
have the time
forever.
to.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's good at that. It's also good at helping with research, helping with the email. Everyone's got to do emails, so it's
Yep.
good at testing messaging and doing the menial stuff
Yep.
that clogs my day, the stuff that I block an hour out to do. It's good at taking notes,
Yep.
capturing things in calls, helping me become better as a salesperson. It's a good training partner in the ring, but it's not
Yeah.
the AI replacing AEs and to a certain extent SDRs. I think is a bit.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, again, so Alex, this is what we call them on the podcast. We call them digital coworkers, right? They're meant to take the menial tasks off. And for everybody listening, right, what Alex just said is so important. Like we build a system, right? And again, this is not a pitch for us. It's just a simple thing. We built an AI SDR system, right? But it's not meant to replace the SDR. It's meant to make one SDR 3 to 5 times more productive to get the crap that bogs their day down done. And for anybody listening to this, like what Alex just said about all of those things is how everybody should think about AI. It's not meant to just replace and replace headcount. It's meant to make somebody 3 to 5 times more productive if it's used right, right? No one wants to do a bunch of that research if they don't have to, if they can get it faster so they can get off and do the important stuff. Like you're saying, pick up the phone, talk to people, right? Where can you do that? And that should never be replaced.
I think that, and to your point, like it replaces headcount only insofar as capacity was filled with a bunch of admin tasks. So
Yes.
I now can, my current staff has more capacity to do just demos and
Which they
targeted
should be doing,
outreach,
right?
phone
Yeah.
calls,
Yes.
and not emailing, setting up cadences, doing
Yeah.
Salesforce notes. But I think that what you said earlier, which is really important, is that we as salespeople, not only should we call and email to a certain extent, although I abhor email, is the research you should be doing is finding out, all right, here's my list of customers. Are they a fit? What are they using currently? Is this a problem they're having? Using internet research to figure out what problems they're having. And then I'll tell you the phone calls that I take and the emails that I answer. And I'm saying this, saying, please I don't want to see my email volume double overnight.
Yeah.
But is people who are telling me something I don't know. So you say to me, you have a problem. I've talked to 6 people, if I work at a company with a lot of employees, I've talked to 6 people in your company and they all say that they're spending too much time researching or they're spending too much time doing X. I've talked to, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and they said this. Here's a problem that you have that you may not know. But I see in that you've taken the time to get to know my business. This isn't just some spam AI outreach.
Yeah.
You've told me something I don't know that that you can solve. So it's worth having a conversation versus like, the people will be like, do you want a list of prescribing doctors for Arta? And I'm like, do you even know what we do? No, I don't want that.
Okay.
Like that's not even
Right.
our target. It's not even tertiary. It's our target ICP.
Right.
So again, like you shouldn't reach out to me unless you know that what you have can help me. And I want you to do the work to tell me how, not me.
Yes.
It's not my job to say, you do a demo of your current product, and then I have to figure out how it helps me. No, you need to tell me how it helps, and then I'll decide if the cost is worth the benefit of that helping.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. I love that. And so what you've kind of laid out in on the growth side, basically sales and marketing side, which is the growth chat, is not only the problems, but the solution, right? And for everybody listening, I hope, especially that we have so many founder-led sales, folks that, have been on the podcast. And I hope that they're listening to what you just said, because I really do believe that that's how you evolve the company But when it comes to the AI piece, you're right. You just have to layer it into where it can. You have to think in the word I would think efficiency, right? If your staff is small, how do you make that staff look like they're bigger, right? You're not, and to your point, you're not like you really have to think through it, right? And this is why I think AI. I put a thing out last week. Is AI is not an IT function; it's a strategy, but it has to be thought through in each department. And what you just kind of walked through, Alex, is how everybody should think of it if they're whether they're CRO, they're the head of sales or the head of marketing. That's how they should be thinking of this.
How can I put
So
my
yeah,
team in the highest leverage opportunity or like highest leverage positions possible? Like if
right,
I have, Alexander Ovechkin as on my team, or fill in the blank, if I have
right,
Aaron Judge is
yeah,
on my team, I'm not batting him leadoff. I'm batting him in the third or fourth slot because hopefully there'll be two or three people on base, and he's a home run hitter, and he'll get those people in. Like batting him
exactly,
leadoff, I'm sure he'd be a great leadoff hitter, but that's wasting all of his talents. You want your salespeople to be in the highest leverage opportunity possible. That means you want them talking to people who need your product, not people who might. You want them
yeah,
talking to people who have problems that you're very good at solving, not just maybe have a problem. And you
right,
want them talking to people, not spending their time emailing. And so, again, AI is very good at making the team more efficient, but also giving them the tools. AI can do the research to tell you what tech stack they're using, what
right,
problems they're having. It can comb through their financial filings and tell you how they're trending, what their revenue projections are, all of those things. And then you go into that call armed with
so much
information that
armed,
is
yeah,
valuable
yes,
versus, we all get the outreach that's like, do you even, like, you ask yourself, even know what we do?
right.
And if I'm asking that question, I'm definitely not responding to you. I don't care if it's the most perfect problem that you solved for me. It's not my job to figure that out. It's your job to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, why we do this podcast is to get insights like that you're bringing to the table so we can share them more across, because I wish I could have succinctly said what you said on some of my other podcasts where we were talking to someone similar in growth, because it really comes down to just thinking through how you set yourself apart, but how you take that extra step to make someone, and again, this is no like and trust, right? What you're basically doing is say, how do I just make know, like, and trust better?
Mhm.
Right?
Like if you think about it, when founders, we've all seen this, founders will do their initial outreach is, hey, I'm the CEO of X company. I would love to pick your brain about a product I'm building. Again, that is value. It's value both for the person that you're asking because they are going to get to see a new product before it's gone to
Mm-hmm.
market, get an idea of where things are heading, maybe shape it in a direction that they want to go. And it's value for you because you're getting feedback on the product. And then you turn it into a sales call. Like that's why that works. Then you move to like a blanket outreach of like, here's this cool thing we've built. It does X, Y, and Z for these three companies. Maybe they personalize it so that they're companies that are like yours, but probably not. And so it's just this, you're carpet bombing them with, we are cool and we do things for people. And it's like, cool. Like, so you
Yeah.
deserve to be in business. Like that's all I've sussed out of that conversation. What you need to, and then once you get a lot of traction where you can say we've done these things and saved 11% on these costs, like you can get a little bit hard, like a little bit more firm messaging that's a little bit more conversion oriented,
Yeah.
and that'll help raise your conversion rates a little bit more. But again, where you really get value is when you can go and say, I know you have this problem. On average, I've helped these people with that problem save X%, or save this many headcount, or do this thing.
Yeah.
I would love to chat because I think you have this problem too, or I've seen that you have this problem too. That is where I can say, I can tell Pepsi what Coke is doing to increase sales, internationally by X%. Like that's where the value is, because you as a salesperson talk to more companies than the person that you're calling. So
Yeah.
you have information that they want, which is what are other companies doing? But you need to get their attention by saying, I can solve the problem that you're having.
Yeah. We always tell our salespeople, I don't know how you feel about that. What you just said, though, is I call that home field advantage, right? If you have 100 sales calls, right, you know what the conversation is going to be. Like you said, it's going to be one of several things, and you know how to go into that sales call. One of the things that someone brought up the other day is how you level up your sales teams. usually the top 20%, right? Again, I'm just throwing, it's probably less than that. It's probably the top 10% of your sales team close most of the business, right? The 80/20. And, but one of the things that I was brought up is why not record those calls, right? Have AI transcribe it and build a sales script to level up the bottom part of that. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, it worked. I kind of, sure. I think that, but that's something that good sales leaders have been doing forever, which is we record and we, we'll do gong recordings or, call analysis. Or I remember when we had those little, tape recorders that you plug
Yes.
into the phone lines. And you do call reviews. But the problem is that there are traits that your top 20% or top 10% have that your bottom 80 or 90% don't. And it's like asking somebody to cosplay as someone they're not. And so what is better is to identify the traits that those people have, which is like, for example, it's easy for me to say, when you objection handle, ask them the question of like, hold on a second, let me understand that. Why is it too expensive? Why do you not want to pay? Why do you not want to sign a 3-year deal? Why X, Y, Z? Like, help me understand, help me just ask why. It's easy for me to say that, and it frustrates me to no end that some people don't naturally ask why, but some people just naturally aren't curious people, or aren't good at thinking on their feet, or aren't good at confrontation, or don't have the confidence. Like, so I think that just hearing how other people are doing it, sure, it's helpful, absolutely.
But you're not going to make them into.
But it's a muscle. It's like if Aaron Judge is a home run hitter, and I hate sports analogies because I feel like they're overplayed, but if Aaron Judge is a home run hitter, he's not going to be a great. He's not a bunter. Like, he's not going to be your best bunter. It's a different skill. And so I think that what you need to do is figure out what the muscle or what the skill that is making that top 20% better is, and how can you either do one of two things: make the rest of the team develop that muscle, practice, train, etc., or figure out where that muscle is most useful, and then make sure that top 10% is only doing the things with that muscle, and the rest of the team is doing
like
the
hitting
rest.
home. If you're Aaron Judge, put him where he's going to hit home runs, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And maybe he's not doing SMB deals, or he or she's not doing the bunting. But again, it's more of a, like, we all have that area of genius, that one or two or three things that we're really good at. How do you build a team around, I do the things I'm really good at, I let other people do the things they're very good at, their things complement my things, and then that's how you build a well-oiled team. That's not to say it's not useful to do call recordings to hear what everyone's doing, but understand that that's not the only, like, just hearing, just me watching Aaron Judge hit home runs doesn't make me a better home run hitter. Like, that's but practicing and developing that muscle and working on all of the things that make him a good home run hitter, or Caitlin Clark good at 3-pointers, or and fill in the blank. Just watching it happen, that's the Olympic fallacy. Everybody watches shot put in the Olympics and goes, I can do that. No, you can't. I promise you, no, you can't. And so, like, there was some comedian who says they should put, like, a average Joe should do the first event for every single event in the Olympics, so you can see that you can't actually do it.
And not even close, right?
Not even close. It was like that stat where somebody, like 1 out of 10 men think that they could beat Serena Williams. No, you can't. I promise you.
You'll get smoked.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be crying to your mother. No. And so again, like, I think that the point is that, like, it's watching it and hearing it is one thing, developing the muscle and figuring out what that skill is. That's how you level up your sales team.
Awesome. Well, I told you I was going to ask you a cool AI question, and really for everyone else watching, but as a sales leader and a revenue growth guy, what do you personally use AI or just emerging tech to make you more productive that you think other sales leaders and execs would find interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think we use it in a bunch of different tools, and I think that some are more valuable than others. For me personally, I love Granola. Like, not sponsored, not an ad, but Granola is pretty great because it allows me to record all of my calls and have to-do items, transcripts, insights that come out of those calls, so that I can go back and again, I don't have to take notes or say, hey, hold up a second, can you repeat that? I can just go have the call, let it flow, and then at the end look through the notes and see what my action items are, what they said. I can, if I if there was something that I missed, I can see it. And so I think that, again, the coworker analogy,
Yeah.
100%. Like, I think it's like having an assistant. ChatGPT or fill in the blank is really great for research, looking into companies,
Yeah.
saying, hey, we just closed this company. What are 6 others like it? What are problems they're having? Go through, comb through their financial statements, and what are things that I should bring up on their call. That kind of stuff
Yeah.
are super, and there are a million of those tools, but there isn't like a silver bullet thing that has,
I
I
don't think
think
there
that
will be. I don't think there will
not
be.
yet.
It's the creative thought process in different roles that we're finding fascinating, right? I had another guy that was VP of growth, and he's also a co-founder, and he uploaded his board presentation and said act as my most antagonistic board member, so it just better prepped him. I thought it's a great idea, right? Things like that we were pulling out we're at the forefront of this, but the really cool thing is the way in which we can find or share ideas about being more productive. Because anybody that can free up part of their day to do the important stuff, like build relationships with their clients, way better use of your time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
use Grammarly is great for their writing tools where you're like, you've had a bad day, or I tend to write very curt, kind of emotionless emails, and
Yeah.
you can be like, make it sound nicer, make it sound more stern, more
Yeah.
professional, more friendly. Like, that's nice. Like,
That is
because you
nice.
can, yeah, so you don't have emails be like tones be misread. I think that stuff is definitely helpful in my day to day as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And one CEO would tell me, he goes, you know what? He goes, we just have to make sure, he goes, that some folks on the team don't take it too far. He's like, because I have one person, he's like, he'll email me and he's like, I'll pick up the phone and call him, and he's like, there's no effing way you wrote this email. Because he's like, it's not the way you talk. Right. So I go, yeah, you know what? I get it. Right.
I mean, yeah, listen, but to be fair, who cares?
Right.
As long as it gets the point across. But yeah, I mean, I think that, there
That's the
are
balance I was talking about, right? That you were
exactly.
mentioning before. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, listen, I'm not going to change. I shouldn't have to change who I am. But I think that, in ways where it can make, emails that would sound a little more curt
Yeah.
be
That
nicer.
hurts.
Like, we've all had customer emails where they email you and they say something and you're like, I want to respond with, are you fucking stupid?
Yeah.
And I don't. And so I write, are you fucking stupid? And then I tell AI, make this a little nicer. And they're
Yeah.
like, which is true.
Yeah.
So I think that, like,
That part's really good because I've written those same emails going, seriously? Like, yeah.
yeah, like, no, yeah, the
Yeah.
ones that are like, the customer is definitely not always right. Yeah. So it is helpful in that regard,
Yeah.
to make me, to not have to, because otherwise I would have had to been like, all right, I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to come
Yeah.
back. And I'm going to be like, I am so sorry that you feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, and write the nice email, not the
Yeah.
one that I want to write.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right. So, no, this is great, Alex. So insightful. Love everything you shared with us. Thank you so much. But before we drop, where can people go to where they can connect with you and Arta?
Yeah, so you can go on to my LinkedIn. It's Alex Grace. You can go on to, I don't have TikTok or Instagram, so not there, or Facebook or MySpace, but you can go on to Arta's website, arta.io, check out what we're doing. Really cool stuff for the luxury goods and kind of art auction
It is
space.
really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a fun space, especially given everything with tariffs and international shipping these days. I think we've really hit a peak need for our stuff. But I also, do consulting on the side, Velocity Sales Consulting. But again, you can reach out on LinkedIn or
And
my
we'll have all the
email,
links
which
when
is,
we go live. Yeah. So
yeah,
people can
my
connect
email.
right with you. Love it. Alex, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Really appreciate it. And I just got so much out of this. So thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed. Thanks for talking.
Awesome. So again, if you're listening and you just want to have a conversation with us on how to connect with other folks from the podcast, or you want to understand how to unlock some of the kind of solutions Alex was talking about with AI, we're happy to talk to you. We never pitch. We're trying to help. And so that wraps up this episode of the Future Proof Podcast. Future Proof what matters, automate the rest. Thanks, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.